if you don't understand what that person is saying to you, ask them questions. Like, you've gotten really good at that, where you ask me questions. At first, it would annoy me. I'm not gonna lie.
Keep up, you little fifth grader. I'm still learning. You got the communication skills of a kindergartner. The majority of men, if they're having this conversation, but they're doing something else, chances are they're not having this conversation. Yeah. They're doing that other thing. Because then you're like, well, if I were to listen, I'd be like, and I'm like, I don't do that. I just listen, and then I picture everything in my mind, and then I build like this like movie in my mind and think about what you're saying, and I just watch that movie, and that's it. I'm just chilling. And then you're like, you're not paying attention. What are you talking about? Of course, I built a movie. I'm in the theater. See, women, since they're young, since they're girls, they naturally just see something and they can express themselves. They can communicate. They can say, oh, look, this is how this makes me feel.
Right.
Oh, look, I like this. Oh, look, I don't like this. Yeah. Boys, when they don't like something, what do? For the most part? They don't like something, they want to punch it, right? They don't like something, they want to yell at it. Right. They don't like something, they're like, get it away from you. Then what happens is that we become 30-year-olds.
Right.
And we're punching walls.
All my emotions are yours. This is what we pray. This is what we pray.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of The Really Good Life with Pablo and Gabby. Now, I want to do clear something up. This podcast isn't the really good life of Pablo and Gabby. That's not the point of this. Nobody else needs to know that we live a really good life. And we wouldn't be doing this to show off our really good life if the purpose wasn't to expose you to your really good life. So see, this is the really good life that is accessible to you. Because we believe that God created every single one of us with a unique and special purpose. We're all individuals that have unique dreams, desires, purpose, a unique everything. I mean, even our fingerprints are all unique. And so there is a really good life, even though you may have lived a really bad life thus far. I mean, you guys just saw our if you haven't seen our first episode, you should go check that out. Talks all about a lot of our struggles. But we just want to say that this really good life truly is accessible to every single person.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it just keeps getting better and better. Life just keeps getting better and better. And, I always say the good life would not be it wouldn't be available without Christ, and if it wasn't for the Lord, if it wasn't for his goodness, if it wasn't for the cross, I mean, what would we have? Right. So, today we actually want to talk about something that I think everybody has heard. Like, we all hear it, we're like, yeah. But honestly, like, I think it's so important to master this, what we're about to talk about, because it's the foundation of a good life. It's one of the foundations of a good life. There's so many things we want to talk about, but one thing that I'm seeing is emotional health is so important. And emotional health is obviously, it's very broad. It's very, I mean,
encompasses a lot of different
exactly. Things. We're even going to have someone on the podcast that is specializes in that, and she has clients and all of that. So it's going to be fun having them on the podcast. But one thing I wanted to ask you.
So we're going to do it a little bit different. So what's our topic today?
Oh, it's going to be communication.
Communication.
Yes.
And for the most part, the people that are really good at communicating are women. Right? Just naturally.
And that's why I kind of want to put Pablo on the hot seat today. And that's why I have my phone with me, not because I'm texting or anything, but because I have questions. And I think that some women would have these questions, and I do find, that some of the women that are in our community, they'll ask me, like, how do I get my husband to talk? Like, it's a real question, and I totally feel them,
For
I
sure.
get them
100%. I
because,
get it.
I mean, Pablo, were you
No, it
a
took me years.
chatterbox?
Oh, no way. It took me years. It took me years to fully understand the importance. But not just that. The problem is this: when you're unaware, when you're just unaware,
Yeah,
you have nothing to talk about
exactly.
because you're unaware.
You're so
You could see
unaware.
the most beautiful thing or the most horrible thing, but because you don't even see it, you're just like, what's going on? Nothing. Truly,
And unaware of what?
of everything, baby.
Of like but
Okay,
mainly of what's going inside of
emotionally,
you.
yes,
Like you don't even know what you're feeling.
exactly.
And of what you're feeling, you're like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what that's
And I
called.
don't know how to describe it
Yeah.
because I'm not used to it. See, women, since they're young, since they're girls, they naturally just see something and they can express themselves. They can communicate. They can
Right.
say, oh, look, this is how this makes me feel.
Right.
Oh, look, I like this. Oh, look,
Yeah.
I don't like this.
Yeah.
Boys, when they don't like something, what do? For the most part, they don't like something, they want to punch it, right? They don't like something, they want to yell at it.
right.
They don't like something, they're like, get it away from me. It's like, it's
Right.
like,
Right.
And so, if we haven't had a very, very good mother
Right.
to teach us these things,
Yeah.
right? Then what happens is that we become 30-year-olds
Right.
and we're punching walls. We become just just violent. We can,
Yeah.
and so I'm not necessarily blaming anyone, but I'm saying that the order should be like that.
Yeah.
You should learn these
Yeah.
skills, how to communicate,
Yeah.
when you're younger.
Yeah, I agree. And well, I guess I'll say a little bit about my background,
Okay.
a little bit, and then
Cool.
we'll go to you
Cool.
and ask you questions because you're
Okay.
in the hot seat.
All right.
But I guess, because I do get asked too, like, how did you get good at communicating, right? For the first maybe, I don't know, few years of my life, I was a very shy, very quiet girl. Like I wouldn't really talk. I was shy. I think a breakthrough that happened in my life when I began to communicate, and this is so important for all the moms out there that are listening to this. Listen to this. This is it changed my life forever. When I was about, I think, 12 years old in middle school, my mom approached me and she asked me for forgiveness. And, I remember, I still remember it like it was yesterday. She took me into her room and she had a sofa in there. And, she sat me down and she said, Gabby, I want to ask you for forgiveness because I've been very disconnected from you all of these years. And truly, like, it's true. I don't really remember my mom, like, having a relationship with her, until maybe that day. And I remember, doing a lot of stuff alone, thinking stuff by myself, like not talking to her as much. The stuff that I remember talking to her about was like Bible stuff. Like she would teach me about the Bible, things like that, but never anything emotional I can recall. And I remember her asking me for forgiveness and her telling me, like, God has told me I need to shepherd your heart. I need to be the pastor, your pastor. My dad at the time obviously wasn't there, to even say that to me. But the Lord put it in her heart, to do that. She put it in her heart to shepherd my heart. So I remember her taking my hand and saying, I want to do that. Will you let me? And she even asked me, can I be, I want me like to be your best friend. And what little girl wouldn't be like, no, So I remember that melted me and I said, yeah, of course, and she prayed for me. We prayed together. She cried a lot. I'm sure that was bringing a lot of healing to her.
Big time.
So I remember after that, oh my gosh, like without exaggeration, I would come after school and how was school? How was your day? And I remember just talking to her about everything, like, well, this happened, and then I saw this. And as I would tell her things that I would hear at school, bad or good, we would break it down together. We would process it together. And she would, with the word, be like, look, that's not right because of this and this and that. or, you know, mom, I'm having struggles with this, you know, okay, let's pray about it. Like, you know, this girl is being mean to me, she's bullying me, whatever. Okay, you know what? We're going to pray. And that's when I began, like, even my faith began to grow, because we would tackle things together with with prayer and the word of God. So that's honestly how I became a good communicator, by having, like you were saying in the beginning, having a mom that was just there, available at all times. You know, she would not just say it, she would actually like make herself available to me. And then, you know, we would just talk, you know.
Let me say something about that. I think it's very, very important. So, okay, if you are in a similar journey as we are, I mean, right now we have kids, right? And
Right.
they're younger,
Yeah.
right? They're between the ages of 3 and 10, right?
Yeah.
And they get, obviously, they get older every year. But at this stage that they're in right now, one thing that I've seen in my life and in others that are in the same season is that things that we didn't get to have and didn't get to benefit from when we were younger, that created hurts in us,
Yeah.
we have an opportunity through our children's lives and what we decide to do with them
Yeah.
to even bring healing to our hearts.
Oh my God, 100%. Yeah.
Like what you were saying, that moment when your mom was crying a lot because she was having that conversation, if you really, really like study that moment and you go back into that, it's like I can see what was going on in her. What I can see was going on in her was like, I never had this. But now I get to be this for someone else, even though I didn't have it.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm getting goosebumps even
Yeah,
as
I
I'm
know.
saying it, because it's like, there's so many different ways that this happens in our lives and in our hearts. Like my dad wasn't able to do this because maybe he was too busy to work. Maybe he was too hurt.
Yeah,
maybe,
he was hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe he was, had to deal with traumatic events.
Right.
Of course he did. So,
Of course, yeah.
but now, years have passed and now I have my children. There's even healing that just happens there. And even if I have forgiven my father or my mother for different things that they did or didn't do in the past, regardless, what I find is that now as I'm fathering my children, as you're mothering our children, what happens is that it's another layer of forgiveness that begins to, it just goes deeper and deeper.
Yeah, and I think like you're saying, I think as you get healed and as you forgive, you begin to also see your parents or whoever wronged you, in a different lighting, and you can't take it personal anymore.
Yeah.
Like you can't be there anymore. Like you truly, like there's times where you even feel compassion, like,
You get there.
yeah,
You
and
get
it's
there.
like, man, like what happened in their hearts and what happened to them
Yeah.
for them to be react in that way, or for them to have not loved, or and you begin to feel compassion for them. And even there's times where I've prayed, where I'm like, God, heal them,
Right.
even at their advanced age, like still heal them, like still show up for them. And I think it's so important, like, communication is linked to emotional health, because if you don't know how to express yourself, if you don't know how to speak, if you don't know what's happening inside of you, it's because there's so many walls. There's so, you've blocked yourself from even wanting to even go there, so, and you can't be like, oh, well, I'm starting all over. Yeah, you can't start all over, but you have to go to the past. You have to go revisit those moments and talk about them even,
100%.
so you can get healing. And,
Yeah.
the Holy Spirit will never take you to your past to shame you,
Yeah.
to condemn you, to
Right.
make you feel guilty.
Yeah.
No, none of that. That's not Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, why he does that is so you can walk with him through it and let go and forgive at the end of the day. But you have to talk about it. And that's why I think, prayer is communicating. If you can't talk, if you don't know how to communicate, then you're not going to also be a good prayer, person, a person of prayer, sorry, to the Lord, because you don't know how. Like you just sit there in silence and be like, I don't know what to say to God.
Yeah.
So I guess how I
Well,
guess
okay, so just to wrap that up then. So you're saying, and now I'm interviewing you. So you're saying that you had this moment with your mom. Before that, your relationship was kind of non-existent. What age was that happened?
that was when I had barely gone into middle school. So I was probably 11.
Okay. All right. So at 11, you began to talk to your mom about everything.
Everything.
You'd get home, you'd just tell her everything that happened.
Everything, good and bad.
So, good and bad. Okay.
Yeah.
So from 11, you've been learning how to communicate up until now. That's awesome.
Yeah, and like I said, it enriched my life. It helped me also think, and when you talk to a grown-up, it brings you so much wisdom
And clarity. Yeah.
and clarity because you're going through your stuff when you're
Sure.
young, in
Yeah.
high school, just
sure.
doing stuff, and you don't know, what's going on around you. You don't know
Yeah.
anything.
I'm
So
laughing because if you have a conversation with one of our sons,
oh,
this brother, he speaks like a 20-something-year-old.
yeah, we get that
You know
a
what I mean?
lot.
Obviously,
Yeah.
he's still little, and there's a lot of things that he
Oh,
doesn't know.
Of course, yeah.
But on the things that we've talked about, because
Yeah.
this is what happens when you communicate. You first become aware
Right.
of what's going on around you,
Right.
but then as you communicate, you begin to feel what you feel about what you become aware
Yeah.
of, and then third, as you communicate, you begin to process,
Yeah.
right?
And I
So,
think that's
yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is amazing,
Yeah.
So it's cool how we're starting that so young right now in all of our kids, and I could just see them like, I did not think like this at 8 years old, at 10 years old,
not
at
at
9 or
all.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
So anyways, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I think one of the questions that I had for you was, how did you get there? Like, how was your communication skills? Like, what were your communication skills better yet?
Like when I got married or when?
No, even before.
Okay, so my
Getting
journey.
there. Yeah,
So
like
my
your
journey in a
journey.
nutshell, my
Yeah.
my journey in a nutshell of how I've gotten better at communicating. I would still say that.
Oh yeah, we need a lot more.
It's still a journey.
Yeah.
And I'm still getting better. But in my early years, there were a lot of traumatic things that happened in my childhood, and the way that I dealt with those things is just kind of shut them out, And so I would just
Because
Yeah.
when I first met you, you
Yeah.
were very quiet.
Yeah. You know what's interesting and it's crazy is the people that knew me, they knew in Spanish there's this word called ido. Like there's ido. So like
Like you would daydream a lot.
yeah, well
Yeah.
they would say I would daydream, and I think I was daydreaming, but I think when like a computer when a computer freezes
Yeah.
and it just gets all awkward, I think that's what would happen to me. So I'd be like hanging out with people, I'd be like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and those that grew up with me are like, oh yeah, he did do that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So, but what it was is I don't know, my
You're
brain just
blocked.
went into like, it just went into like a freeze mode because this is just the way that I would handle a lot of these things growing up. Those traumatic things would happen around me and to me
Yeah.
that I guess I mentally blocked them.
Yeah.
And what happens when you mentally block them
Yeah.
is that you don't do those things. You're not
Yep.
aware. You don't process it. What was the
Yep.
other thing? And you don't. What I talked about earlier. I think
You're
that's pretty.
you're
pretty
not
cool.
you're not aware.
And then what was the other thing? Oh, I forgot. Anyways, rewind it. There's something there. There's something there. But you see, I wasn't aware. So that started. I had no skills in terms of communicating when I got married.
Yeah.
You basically had to just pull it out of me and just be like, what are you feeling, bro? Like, what do you like? What, like, seriously, like, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
And how does that make you feel? And this and that. And so,
Yeah, it was, I mean, I do remember when I first met you, like you were just not, I mean, you were quiet. You were so quiet. And I think also what got you going were our letters, like we talked about, like
yeah,
our
yeah.
letters was such a
true.
help because I mean, you had to write.
That's true.
You had to write what you were thinking,
that's
what you
crazy.
were, feeling, what happened that day, what happened in that season, what happened
Yeah.
at home.
Oh, I have a funny story to say with that.
Okay.
Okay, it's a funny story.
Oh, no.
So we would write each other letters.
Yeah.
Right. And baby, you've been helping me communicate since I was younger. Like you're like the person that has helped me express myself. That's pretty amazing. So like everything I'm doing now, interviews, like, all these different things, like you're gonna get some reward up there.
Okay.
You're gonna get some rewards. Anyways, so I remember that I had gotten used to communicating with you and just kind of being a little bit more aware of my emotions and what I was thinking. And as a family, we had gone through something pretty traumatic. And so I gathered all my brothers and I'm like, hey guys, we're going to talk about this. Like I know that this just happened. And so, I want you guys to talk about it because I didn't even know why it was healthy, but I knew that it was healthy to talk.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, guys, we're going to have a conversation. And then one of my brothers, I won't say who, he's like, what, bro? This is wrong. Like, what are we, women? Like, he said it a different way, but I'm not going to say it, but he's like, what are we, women?
Yeah.
So then he just walked out. Like I had everybody in a circle, like sitting India
He
style.
just walked out.
And I must have
This
been
guy.
like 15.
Oh my
This brother must
gosh.
have, 15. That
You're
means he was
probably
probably
no, I think you were like 16, 17
okay,
at the
maybe I was
time.
16, which
Yeah.
means that he was like around 12.
Yeah.
And then everybody else was,
You just
younger.
gave,
Freddie.
you just gave it away.
Oh yeah.
You said, I'm not going to
Anyways.
say it, but you just gave
Anyways,
it away.
okay, whatever. So then he walks out, and then everybody else. So I'm like, it's just
You
funny.
left alone.
So yeah. But you see, the importance of communicating is pivotal to your growth,
It
to
really
your
is.
development,
Yeah,
to your
yes,
development.
Yes. Yeah, no, 100%. And that's why I think it's easy to just say like, yeah, communication is, the key. But when you really put it into practice, like this is how we've been able to get breakthrough. This is how we've been able to
100%.
get breakthrough
100%.
all the time
100%.
when we go through stuff. I mean, one thing that I've done forever, and I think Pablo appreciates a lot, I don't process with you first. I always go with the Lord first.
Oh, that's good.
And I think it just helps because I know my mind, how it works. My mind goes, like it just goes a lot, right? So if I would come to Pablo and just like dump it, on Pablo, I would just get upset at him because he probably wouldn't even know what to do or what to say in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not the type, and I think we've discussed this too. We've talked about it because again, gotta talk about everything. I've told him like, and I think he knows this now, like I'm not the type where when I come to you, I tell you something or a problem or an issue. I don't want you sitting there just listening to me. Like I actually want you talking to me about the whole thing. Like
trying to bring a solution?
Yeah, like not just a
Gabby,
solution. Yeah.
You're offending 90% of the women.
I know. But that's
All right,
how I am.
Let me clear something up. So, all right, if you're a dude that's listening to this and you're like, oh, look, this is, again, a really good life for everyone individually.
Yeah.
So this isn't normal.
Maybe
like,
I'm not normal.
I lucked out on this, okay? So a lot of women just want to be heard.
Yeah.
And don't bring a solution and just sit there
That's
and
true.
just don't say anything.
Yeah.
They just want you.
Which is not bad.
Yeah, which is not bad. I mean, exactly.
That's who you
Yeah,
are.
that's who you are. But she's saying like this is how she is.
Yeah.
So,
because I've already like done a lot of the
no, but then a big part of that is you go through something or you're experiencing something, and what you're saying is before you come to me,
Yeah.
you go to the Lord.
I do 100%.
So
Like-
for the people that are just starting their walk with
Yeah.
the Lord, what does that look like?
I go pray. I go into my closet or, wherever your area is that it's quiet. You don't get like in my closet, I don't even get reception. So that's why I like my closet.
Let's make it even more practical. Somebody offended you or somebody did something
Yeah.
that you got upset, right? And now you're upset, you're offended. Before coming up to me, like, can you believe this? Can you sit like so? Now you're in your closet. Before you do that, you go to your closet, and what do you do there?
And I just pray and I just talk to God. Praying is talking to God. That's all it means, So I just talk to the Lord and I begin to tell him all my emotions. I begin to tell him how I feel. I begin to tell him how I think. There's some stuff that, I just, sometimes I'll just cry, depending on, what the situation is, if I feel frustrated or upset, like you're saying, even when it comes to you, you know, like,
Yeah. I offend you a lot.
you know, like if there's times where I feel like I can't get through your head, you know, like I'll just go to the Lord. You know, I don't go to my mentors. I don't go to my mom. I don't know. I go first to God. And, you know, I tell him everything, and it's there where I just sit there and I just try to listen to him. You know, I try to listen to him, even like reading the word of God. You know, I go to the word, like, what do you want to tell me right now? And there's moments where I just hear his spirit very quietly in my, you know, in my heart, like what he's saying. And that calms me down. That like, you know, like all the emotions that were up here, like he just, you know, there's a Psalms in Psalm 73, it says, until I, you know, went into the sanctuary, until I entered into the sanctuary, then I understood. You know, so it's until you go into the presence of God and you talk to God, you communicate with God, your creator, who knows you better than anybody, who, I mean, made you how you are, with your personality, with how you're wired, you know, like he gives you an understanding. So before that, I go, you know, there's times where I just talk to the Lord and I tell you, like, yeah, this is what I got. You know, this is how I've been, you know, how I was feeling. But now that I sat with God, like, I understand this and this and that.
Well, and it's such a load off of me as your husband, because I can't be God.
No.
I can't be your God, which means that, you know, how earlier you said, oh, I pray about this and then it makes me feel this certain way. And it takes like a big old pressure off of me. I could never do that for you. And I'm so grateful and appreciative. And I think this is one of the pillars of a really good life. Is this is like, dude, this is like a key.
Yeah, no,
it's a key.
This is one of the keys. Yeah.
A business deal falls through.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't close the contract and you were expecting it and you were like doing your numbers and you're like, all right, cool, we're going to get that deal. And then,
I mean,
you know, we're going to do this.
There's times where I remember the first time where I got rejected. This person, you know, very high-end, you know, client, you know, they started saying some stuff, you know, to me about, you know, the style or my furniture. I think it was my furniture pieces, because I was also renting at that time. So, you know, not a lot of the stuff was very modern, but I remember, like, it bugged me, like it bothered me. And I was like, oh, that person's so mean. And then she did something else that I was like, it was so unnecessary, you know, what she said or what she did. And then I remember, like, it bugged me so much. So I was like, why is it bugging me? And I've learned throughout the years that to know myself, that if something's bugging me, like, I got to go address it with the Lord. He's the one that knows me, you know, he's the one that knows, and he can see it, you know? So I had to go to the Lord and say, God, what does this bug me? Like, why is this like such a thorn inside of me, you know? And, you know, I just and then the Lord started to affirm me, you know, like, hey, let it go. Like, better times are coming. You're going to get better. There's going to be, you know, funds soon for you to buy more modern things. And, you know, but it just stretched me, you know, it stretched me also as a stager to be like, okay, you know, I have to get better. Like, my eye has to get better. I didn't take the proud, you know, road, but I took more of like, okay, what can I learn from this, Lord? And only God can do that in his presence, you know? So I that's honestly what I do. So when I come to you, like, most of the time it's
The heavy
to
lifting's
share.
already
Yeah,
done.
it's to share like what I've learned. But then also you minister to me, you know, and you just begin to confirm whatever God, you know,
it's already been for, like, for example, in this case, in what you were talking about in this particular job, I right there, if we would have been in conversation, just taking myself back to that moment, if we would have had a conversation on that, one thing I would have told you, as you're expressing that to me, I would have said, well, could it be that you're linking part of your identity to your furniture pieces, you know, or even deeper than that? Like, are you linking your identity to whether this succeeds or not?
Right.
You know, because if it bothers you that much, you know, there's something deeper going on.
Right,
So then in
exactly.
conversation, all of that stuff would come out.
Well, I mean, what you told me when I did, you know, because you noticed it. You noticed that it bugged me. I don't think you remember. You do or you don't?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm like, I know you don't remember because right now you said I would have. I'm like, what are you talking about? You did talk to me.
Oh.
But what you told me was, I mean, one thing about us, I guess that's one thing we can share too. One thing that I know you've never done since the beginning that we got married is you've never, how do I say this or how do I express it? You've never, like when I'm going through something rough, you've never babied me through it. Like
Oh, that sounds bad, baby.
I know it sounds
Yeah.
bad, but it's not.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
I know like it's made
Yeah.
me who I am too. Where you listen and you talk to me and you affirm me, but at the same time you challenge me. Like you don't sit there being like, yeah, she's horrible. Oh my gosh, like yeah, that agent, you know, like you don't do
Oh,
that.
especially when it comes to business. Yeah, for sure.
No, but in every area
In
of
every
my
area,
life, like
yeah.
ministry,
Yeah.
with people, with
That's true.
friends, with
Yeah, that's
family,
true.
like you've never been that way. So when I come to you and I talk to you about it, like you just come and you tell me, okay, well, what can you learn about this? This is about you. Like you always point it. So that's the reason why it pushed me even more to go into the presence of God, to be like, okay, God, you know, like what's going on inside of me? So I know we were talking about like you not always being here. So it was a lot of practice for you, obviously, to talk and because yeah, there was moments where I would be like, Pablo, what are you thinking? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you still do that, but like, and you're saying nothing because truly you're not
Okay.
thinking
All right.
anything.
But that's good to clear up. That's good to clear up. And I learned this when I was when I was a teenager, because I heard, I think I heard somebody in a preaching say, I forgot what it was, but obviously, like the biggest, men communicate a lot less than women, so the key isn't like, because this is another thing. You have to understand male and female distinctions. Like
Yeah.
what makes us different.
Yeah.
Like our brains are not the same. Like we
How
don't
we're
process
wired, yeah.
information. We're not wired the same way. Like I know that the majority of men, if they're having this conversation, but they're doing something else, chances are they're not having this conversation.
Yeah.
They're doing that other thing.
Yeah.
Whereas women, they can do this conversation, that conversation. You could be having that conversation, 1,000 conversations, and you're still like, it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Like your processing power is a whole lot higher.
Yeah.
Like men, we just focus on one thing and do that well. You know what I mean? Like, and so if you want to have a conversation with your husband, but your husband's doing something else, like maybe don't do that. Maybe let's plan a time.
Yeah.
So this is all we're gonna do in this time.
And then I think also you have to learn how your husband like how he processes whatever you're telling him. Like for instance,
Oh, that's a good one.
Like, with you, because you still do it.
Yeah.
There's times where like I want to talk to him about something and I really want him to pay attention. And, and I'm talking and I'm expressing myself and I'm communicating and da-da-da. And then there's just like no words coming out of his mouth. And I'm like, dude, like I want you to like talk back to me again, because that's how I am.
Yeah.
I'm not the type that I just want you to listen.
Yeah.
I actually want you to talk, but how he processes things sometimes is just literally, he's just like picturing, that's what he says.
Okay, so let me say it. So
that you're picturing everything I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's what I do.
So I guess
explain that.
Yeah, explain
okay,
that. Because I think a lot of men are like that.
The thing is that when you communicate with me, you're like, you're not participating in the conversation, you're not listening to me. I'm like, yes, I am. I'm actually listening to you. But you're like, no, you're not, because you're not talking back. Talking is not listening. So I'm like, because you're like, because then you're like, well, if I were to listen, I'd be like, and I'm like, I don't do that. I just listen, and then I picture everything in my mind, and then I build like this like movie in my mind and think about what you're saying, and I just watch that movie, and that's it. I'm just chilling. And then you're like, you're not paying attention. What are you talking about? Of course, I built a movie. I'm in the theater. Like I'm in the theater watching this movie. You're interrupting the movie by you saying that. So so this is the way that I do it. I don't know, other guys are like that too. And so I just listen, and it takes me time to process it, right? I'm like, okay, that's happening. Why? All right, wow. Oh man, ooh, like that's crazy. Okay, but see, I'm just quietly, not even eating popcorn. I'm just watching the movie. And so it helps. And then I have to think about it, and then I can formulate a response.
Yeah, and it's taken me a while
Yeah.
to accept this. It's taken me a while to be like, oh, like he is listening because again, everyone is so different. Everyone's so, you process things very differently. So yeah, so it again, and it's also good to talk about that, to talk about, if your husband, if you're watching this, if you're a guy who's watching this, no, like it's so important for you to tell your wife how you process things because a lot of times the wife or, the girlfriend, whoever, the friend, they could be thinking that you're not listening, or maybe they don't like the way you listen. I don't know. So it's so, but this is so good. And I know it's like silly. It sounds silly, but it's so helpful because again, doesn't allow me to jump into conclusions. Like I
That's a good
won't
one.
jump into conclusions because you've already told me how you process things. And then the result is that, well, then afterwards he'll talk back, and he'll tell me.
Yeah, I can't be like, oh, it's like 10 days later. I'm still processing. Like
I was
2 days
forming
later,
a movie.
2 days, I'm still watching it. I have it on super
I had to
slow-mo.
rewatch.
I had to rewatch that.
No, it's such a
No,
yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
Just give me time.
Right,
That's all I
right.
ask for.
Yeah.
Just give me time. Like,
Yeah, and obviously I've also learned that I can't talk to him when he's working, when he's editing or when he's
oh, that's something that's something like, yeah. Well, because there's two sides to that. There's one, it's like, baby, I can't have this conversation now because I'm working. Like these are my work hours. And in another episode, we're gonna talk about, how I almost lost my marriage with you because of work. Okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But when I'm working, I'm working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can't have a conversation. So that's one side of it. Another side is you still want to know that I'm thinking about you. So a nice little text or a nice 1-minute call saying like, hey, how you doing? I miss you. I haven't seen you and all this. And, but I'm excited to see you and hear about your day.
You know what's so funny?
Is important.
You know what's so funny?
What?
Things, people change. I'm kidding. No, but it's so funny because now when I'm staging, like staging, it doesn't feel like work because it's a passion, like it's something that I like doing.
Yeah.
So
No, I like where you're going with this.
so no, but that's what I'm saying. Like like again, wives who are listening to this and they have a husband who's an entrepreneur who has a business, most of your husbands thrive on their entrepreneur, like their business, right? Like they love it. They're passionate about it, right? I mean, that's why they're doing their own business. But now that I'm doing my staging and then you call me, I'm like, I can't talk right now. Like I'm staging. Can you because when you're staging, you're just like on the go.
Yeah.
So,
Wait,
same
it's
thing.
not that you're not thinking about me?
No.
It's not that you don't love me or care about me?
Yeah.
I feel so vindicated in this moment. I feel so understood.
Hey, and the cameras are here.
Thank you, Jesus.
So the Lord did it. But now I understand you. Back then I didn't understand you because I was home all day, with babies and stuff. So that's why, but now that I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm like, I think about it. You call me, I'm like, this is how he would feel when I would call him. Like every 10 minutes, like, when are you coming? What are you doing? So I apologize.
It's all good in public.
In public.
It's good. I accept your apology.
Okay.
It's good.
So anyway,
Do you have another question? Or
yeah, no. So like, I guess this is more to give hope to the women, that just keep asking the questions, right? Just keep talking to your husband. Like, don't think that,
but another one, baby, another one that is important too is if, being married, but this goes with any relationship.
Yeah.
Like if you don't make time to communicate, then do you really have a relationship? And so this is why for us, date nights are extremely 100% like extremely important.
Yes.
Now I say date nights, but if you think about it, baby, for the past couple of weeks, because we've been so busy, like in the evening times with the kids or, with other things that we have going on, we haven't really had date nights.
Right.
We've had date brunches.
Breakfasts or brunches.
Date brunches,
Yeah.
date breakfast, date brunches.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah, no, it's
like
true.
most times that we've gone out in the past couple of weeks.
during the day.
But so the point isn't date night. The point is a time every week. Like this has to be every week.
Yeah.
Like if you can't get up to every week, I understand. You're probably like, wow, I can't do every week. I'm like, okay, well, please, do like once a month,
and it doesn't
or once every 2 weeks.
It doesn't have to be fancy.
No.
Like it can. There's times where finally the kids are asleep, and we're like, okay, finally, like, we can breathe, and we'll just sit in our bed and just talk.
Yeah, but I would say then the temptation is you want to sit down and watch a movie. Now, I think now.
No, obviously you got to mix it.
I think, look, watching movies, not talking. No, watch movies.
It's just unwinding,
chilling. Which is good.
Yeah,
and it's just watching a movie.
Yeah.
But the whole point of this episode is communication. And sitting down and watching a movie, or even going to a restaurant,
playing a board game,
or doing something. Yeah, it isn't really communication, unless it's not really communication.
No.
So. If you are gonna do, I would say make it special, because I say chilling in the bed, like that's like a normal thing.
No, I know, but what I'm saying,
this is an idea. If maybe you do, if you don't have the means or the resources, because you have your kids or you have all that.
Yeah.
Maybe pull up a blanket right there, put a bunch of like pillows, and
order takeout,
or just make yourself a coffee, do something, and just talk.
That's what we did when we,
we're going through, we're really going.
I remember I even have pictures of this one time where it was a Christmas dinner, it was a Valentine's dinner. I think it was for Christmas.
Yeah,
that I dressed up, and we put candle lights on our kitchen, and music, and we just had dinner,
and it looked like a fancy date spot. Yeah.
And that's when we were going through some rough times,
really rough financial times. But we prioritized, and we said, no, I don't want to do like just sit down, watch a movie. We always do that. Like instead, let's just do this and put some nice little candles, and let's sit across from each other and let's just talk.
And let's just talk. Yeah.
And
that's honestly been so for me, it honestly, it's what enriches, I feel like, our relationship.
Yeah.
Like just being able to just talk to you and just have someone that I can just tell him everything, like how I feel, what I'm thinking, and like you get me in every thing that I'm saying. And what I love, because we're taking some classes at our church about emotional health, and really good stuff. And one thing that she says is, if you don't understand what that person is saying to you, ask them questions. Like, make sure you ask back whatever they're telling you, so you make sure that you're understanding. And that's one thing you've always done. You've gotten really good at that, where you ask me questions. You'll say like, wait, can you say this again? Can you say it again? Like, I didn't really understand that. At first, it would annoy me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie, because I was like,
keep up, you little fifth grader. I'm still learning. You got the communication skills of a kindergartner. Like, I probably do, but this is why we need to talk, so.
Right. So, but now I appreciate it.
Sure.
I appreciate it because it makes me feel like
I actually care.
Yeah. Like you really do want to understand me, and you do want to get me. So I think, like I said, it's taken time. It's taking a long time. It's taking years,
And again, guys, like I want to go back to that, and I want to stress that, because I think it's important to understand each other. Like, it's important.
Well, first you have to understand yourself.
Yeah, the more you understand yourself, the more you can understand other people. Like guys, like the majority of guys that I know weren't raised in a healthy home. They didn't have that healthy communication with their parents, with their, and so growing up.
And this is like not just poor parents. This is like wealthy parents too.
Also, this generationally.
Like we've known people who are crazy, rich.
Yeah.
And their communication skills not that great, you know?
And so what does that point to? That points to that how can I say this? Like, I'm trying to say this again in the most honoring way of our previous generation, because I love and I absolutely love our previous generation, and I'm not speaking ill of what they did or what they didn't do. I bless them, I honor them. But if we really are to make a difference in our family and in our future generations, we have to at one point acknowledge what was right and what was wrong. We have to at one point say, this is what I'm going to continue to do, or I'm going to put a stop to it and I'm going to change and I'm going to do something different for my kids and my kids' kids and my kids' kids' kids. You see, someone has to be like, all right, I'm going to do things differently.
Yeah.
And what we're advocating for is kingdom. What
Yeah.
we're advocating for is, look, this is what the word of God says. Like, the one that created you also has a game plan
Yeah.
that if you follow, you can have a really, really good life.
Yeah.
You know, and so one of those pillars is communication. And
Yeah.
so
It's one of our values.
I say, so the reason I say that is because it gives me more understanding and more compassion, like you said. So if you do have a husband that, you know, he just cannot communicate, and I'll say this, and you're thinking about divorcing him, and you're like, I've just lost hope. Like this man, you know, this, I would say consider that as well. I would say consider like what his upbringing was, and maybe, you know,
Seek out
maybe
some help.
yeah, seek out some help. You know,
Yeah.
seek out some help. But I'm
I
telling you,
mean,
there's hope.
I had help with you, you know, like
Yeah.
again, you know, we talk about them, but our pastors, man, like they helped you a lot, you know, different leaders helped you a lot too on
100%.
how to process certain emotions,
Yeah.
what's going on inside of
Yeah.
you, why are you so spacey,
Yeah.
you know, like different you know, that's a whole story.
That's a whole thing.
That's a whole story in itself, you know.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious now, you know, we're laughing,
Yeah.
but you know, so but it was all because of what was happening inside of you, and that's why I think this is so important that, you know, because even women too, some women are so shut down,
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
and you know, they see their husband shut down, they're like, whatever, I'm gonna shut down even more.
But you can't continue to function this way.
No.
And that's why I understand why you're at where you're at in terms of the decisions that you want to make. I understand. But what I'm saying is, look, the whole point of this is the really good, like, it's accessible to you too.
Yeah, this
It's
is for
accessible to you too.
everyone.
Right.
I mean, guys, this is like, it's for everybody. Jesus didn't die for one person. He died for the world. So it's through Christ, you know, that we can have a good life. He is the life, you know. So, you know, today I was in the morning, I was worshiping him, and one of the things that I was saying to him was, thank you for your blood, because in the blood there's life, you know, and if he wouldn't have shed that blood, the last drop of his blood, we wouldn't have life. None of us would have life.
You know, it's crazy. Like, and I'm understanding these concepts a lot more, you know, because, you know, you believe that Jesus died on the cross, and the cross as a, you know, the most impactful thing is the entrance to the really good life. Now, a lot of people stay at the entrance. What's further, like what's inside of this kingdom, if you think about it like this, okay, think about what I'm about to say. Jesus died on the cross for us so that we could communicate more effectively. Is that something that you could say?
Oh my gosh, yes.
That's crazy.
Because like, again, look, this is how I picture, like, you know, those pipes?
Yeah.
I picture a pipe and I picture it all clogged up.
Ah, that's
You
good.
know?
Yeah.
And I see some of you watching even, like, I just see that, like, you're clogged, you know? There's so much that's happened in your life. Even things that you might think, oh, but that happened to my mom, or that happened to my dad, or that happened to my grandma. Like, if your parents didn't deal with that, guess what? That's going to get passed on to you, and it's going to clog up your pipe. You know, and then things happen to you, and then it accumulates, and you know, and life happens to you, right? Certain things that you couldn't control as if you were a child. That's why the enemy loves to attack children and expose them to certain things that they shouldn't get exposed to, because that totally clogs your pipe up, you know. And then it's like, what can come out of you? Nothing. All that comes out of you, like the word of God says, that, you know, the mouth speaks of the abundance of the heart, whatever's in your heart. So what comes out of you comes out, whatever that's what you're clogged with, you know, whether it's, you know, anger, you know, obviously we learned that anger is a second symptom of what's really going on inside of you, you know, or you just shut down. You just shut down completely, you know, and you're like, I'm clogged, you know, like I can't say anything. I don't even know like what emotions coming out or what I'm feeling because you've suppressed it so much and so much. So yes, the blood of Jesus, yes, the cross is something that it's going to unclog you. You know, Jesus died to unclog you, to declutter you, to cleanse you, to purify you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's awesome. See that, and this is a different take on why, you know, why Jesus came down.
He died
and
for
why he died for our sins. Like
he
this
didn't
is
just die for your physical health.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of times, oh, he died for your sickness. Yeah, he did. But have you ever thought about sick hearts? You know, like the sickness of the heart. That's like the number one thing, you know, why people can't like have good lives, you know? And it's Christ died for that. So we can have a good emotional health. So we can be healthy emotionally, spiritually, and physically, you know? And this is why, like, if you haven't gotten to know Jesus, get to know him. Get to know him. He's the one that will come and just heal you, deliver you, help you. I mean, what can he not do? So yes, of course, you know, the cross is something that we can say that he died so we can communicate even more effectively, of course.
In our marriage, in, you know, business, with our children.
Yeah, with friends.
With friends. This is amazing. This is really good.
Yeah.
This talk has really blessed me.
Yeah.
Because it's gotten me to see. And that's what it is. That's why I really like doing this whole thing that we're doing, that we're, you know, we release one of these, but then we also do a worship set.
Yeah.
Because all glory and all praise be to him.
Yeah.
For whom we have this life.
Yeah.
This really good life.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, you're watching us, and again, thank you guys for even watching this. But if you can share this with all of your friends who are married, with all of your family, you know, go ahead and share it, you know, subscribe, all of that. Comment even, guys. Like, we want to hear from you guys. How is this helping you? How is this blessing you? But we just pray, you know, that this can come and just give you hope and give you tools, you know, to also, you know, maybe you're hearing this with your husband or your wife. You can pause and be like, hey, you know, let's talk about that. Yeah. Like, how, you know, how do we like process? How do I listen to you?
Yeah, how do I listen to you? I think first, why don't we throw out a challenge? Yeah. Like, yeah, let's throw out a challenge.
Okay.
So I think a challenge can be set a date.
Yeah.
Set a date when you're going to talk, when you're going to intentionally communicate, right? You have to set a date. If you do it like every week, then you probably don't have to set a date because you've already set the date.
Right.
But if you're like, man, we're so backed up, we haven't had conversations, whatever. And women are more sensitive to gauge that and to be like, I feel so disconnected. Like men, if a man says that, like that man is, you know, that man knows how, that man is pretty emotional healthy. Yeah. But for the most part, most men, you know, wouldn't say that.
Right.
So if you're a woman and you're like, wow, I feel so emotionally disconnected, this is my challenge. This is our challenge to you. It's set a date with your husband.
Yeah.
Set a date.
Just talk.
Just talk.
Just talk. Just choose something to talk about. Just get good at it. And women, don't lose hope. Keep praying for your men. Keep praying for your husbands. They will get there. Believe me. That's going to be another episode that we will do. You know, how to pray for your husbands and how to not lose hope and to see the potential that you saw at first when you married them. It's still there. But you just sometimes got to, you know, ask the Lord how to, you know, how he can use you to draw that out of them. So we love you guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode. God bless you.
God bless you. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed that episode. Don't forget that the really good life is accessible to you. It's accessible to your friends. It's accessible to anybody.
And if you would like to continue to see more content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Instagram. And we hope to see you next episode.